When you ask the question, who's running things in Detroit, most people will tell you it's the emergency manager, Kevin Orr. Some even say it's the governor, Rick Snyder.
Yeah, but what if it's neither of them? Tonight, Charlie LaDuff uncovers a new face.
He's the most important man you've never heard of pulling the levers in Detroit. His name? Richard Baird. What's he look like? What's he do? Most people couldn't tell you. I can't. But thanks to lawsuits brought by professional thorn in the side Robert Davis, that's him on the right, we have a better idea what Richard Baird actually does. He's the guy who scraped up Kevin Orr to be the emergency manager. He negotiated with Orr's law firm to lead Detroit through its bankruptcy for millions of dollars. He found Detroit's new chief financial officer. He interviewed James Craig to be the new chief of police. He consulted with Mike Duggan about the emergency manager and donated $2,500 to Duggan's mayoral campaign. And he's got an office next to the governor's up in Lansing. But the weird thing is, we the people are not paying Baird's salary. His $100,000 a year is being paid out of a nonprofit controlled by the governor, the Nerd Fund. It's raised more than $1.5 million. But here's another weird thing. The governor won't disclose who the donors are. That's allowed by law, but considering the problems other local luminaries have had with these funds, it doesn't instill much confidence. Not that we're saying anything's wrong here, but just who is this murky Richard Baird? Who's paying him? We put our best man on the job, Charlie LaDuff. Charlie? Thanks, Charlie. And you know, you're right. We've got an obscure guy pulling strings in Detroit getting paid by secret donors, and that just raises obvious questions about conflict of interest. Now, we called handlers for the governor and this Baird guy, and they didn't get back to us. So we're going to Lansing to get you some answers, Detroit. That's just democracy. American style.
Yes, I'm so glad I'm living in the USA. Anything you want, they got it right here in the USA. I'm so glad I'm living in the USA.
First thing, call the governor's office. Trying to reach up with Mr. Baird or the governor. Fox 2 political analyst Tim Skubic says the men go way back, with Baird giving the governor his first job in accounting. Richard Baird, Dick Baird, Richie, what's this guy's name?
Well, he's almost invisible in this town, but I have seen him. There have been Baird sightings. But look, the governor has an inner circle, and he has a seat, a major seat at that table. He recommended to the governor the hiring of Mr. Orr, which underscores his influence. However, it's good to know who's behind the scenes, helping to make some major decisions which do impact the city of Detroit. But are Detroiters going to take Mr. Baird out of his job? Not going to happen. Can they change the governor's mind and find somebody else? Not going to happen. So basically, Mr. Baird is there to stay, and Detroit basically is going to have to live with it.
Many Detroit's Democrats don't know who this guy is, and they'd like to know who's paying Baird.
It's problematic. I mean, you have someone that no one knows where his money's coming from, making decisions, has a lot of influence. I make a lot of decisions. I have a lot of influence, and I got to spend months on the campaign trail trying to get people to understand what I'm trying to do on their behalf, you know, and the people pay the salary.
Maybe the Republicans have some inside info. Do you know where I can find Richard Baird?
I actually don't know the gentleman offhand, and I couldn't help you out on that topic.
You ever heard his name?
I had a briefer discussion on it, but I couldn't give you more details on it.
Who is this guy? Nobody knows nothing, and nobody's returning calls. So we're taking it straight to the executive suites.
We have Fox News here to see Richard Baird.
They tell us Baird's out of town, and the governor's giving a press conference. Maybe we can get an answer up there.
Your right-hand man is Richard Baird. He's paid from a private fund, a 501c4. He's making a lot of decisions about the lives of Detroiters, but we don't know who's paying him. Is that fair, and will you commit to disclosing who those contributors are?
Well, again, the Nerd Fund is a legally set up fund. It's following all the rules, doing all the compliance that's appropriate for a fund like that. It's helping offset the burden of government. One of those things is helping pay for Mr. Baird. Rich is not making decisions for Detroiters. He's essentially been of primary assistance in helping recruit good people to the public sector, and he's done a lot of good work in that regard. We're reviewing the Nerd Fund just because it has raised enough issues, and we're going to come out and talk about that when it's appropriate. So we're going through that review process now.
Will you let us know?
We absolutely will, Charlie.
Okay, and you got my number?
I got your number, and I've always enjoyed working with you.
Amazing stuff. That was Charlie LaDuff reporting. Now, it should be said that these nonprofits, known as 501c4s, are not uncommon amongst politicos. But it shouldn't be too hard to disclose these names. For instance, when you call L. Brooks Patterson up here in Oakland County, 20 minutes later, there's the donor list. So we look forward to the governor's full disclosure, and when we get it, we'll bring it to you. Now, back to our regular programming.
Fox 2 News. News that works for you. Starts now.
Governor Rick Snyder is behind closed doors in Lansing right now, being questioned about Detroit's bankruptcy filing.
Fox News' Roop Raj with more on this deposition. This is sort of unprecedented, isn't it, Roop?
It is totally unprecedented, at least here in the state of Michigan. You know, you look through history and you'll rarely find a time that a sitting governor of a state is actually being grilled by lawyers right now, but that's exactly what's happening, and it all has to do with what happens behind us at federal court. You'll know, of course, that judge, Stephen Rhodes, is getting ready to decide on whether or not Detroit is eligible for bankruptcy protection, and right now that decision, it kind of hinges on what's happening about an hour and a half down the road in Lansing. It's a long morning for the governor in Lansing. A deposition started at 8:30 a.m. Attorneys for the UAW, AFSCME, and city employees all asking the governor what he knew and when he knew it. Legal analyst Charlie Langton says the attorneys will try to find holes in the governor's version of how Detroit's bankruptcy filing went down.
Was Detroit bankrupt? The governor did a whole study on that, and the duty, the law in bankruptcy is that the creditors, the people that are challenging the bankruptcy, has to make sure or has to prove that Detroit's not bankrupt. The governor knows about that.
The governor's office releasing this statement to Fox 2 Wednesday morning. He voluntarily agreed to this step in interest of helping ensure this case is resolved fairly and as quickly as possible, and to ensure what's in the best interest of Detroiters and Michiganders. He's been clear and transparent throughout the process.
The governor's going to have to show that he and Kevin Orr bargained in good faith or did everything humanly possible to try to prevent Detroit from going bankrupt.
The governor will repeat a mantra we've heard before when he's been asked about why bankruptcy was the only option left to start addressing the $18 billion in long-term debt Detroit faces. The office telling me he's been clear and transparent through the process. Bankruptcy was the only viable option to solve the city's fiscal crisis 6 decades in the making, improve services for citizens, and get Detroit back on the path to being a great city again.
This is huge for the governor, a sitting governor, to be given testimony under oath. I mean, I don't know when it's ever happened about what the governor did in office.
You know, the Attorney General for the state of Michigan tried behind us at federal court to put forth executive privilege, allowing the governor to essentially be absolved from having to do any of this today, but that did not work, and he is being ordered, as you know now, to sit down and answer those questions that those lawyers are asking. By the way, this meeting should be at least 3 hours long. It started at 8:30 in the morning, and so we're talking about at least another 20 minutes or so, but we understand that that 3-hour time is just for the question and answer. Bathroom breaks and any sidebars that the lawyers choose to take are on top of that. Reporting live in Detroit, Roop Raj, Fox 2 News.
That is going to be a long day. Thank you, Roop.